Hey everybody, and welcome back to video game Esoterica. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at two classic beat-em-ups for the CPS2 platform. Before we get into the gameplay though, if you just go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below, it really helps us out. So the first game we're taking a look at is Alien vs. Predator, and you're able to play as two different Predator characters, the Warrior and the Hunter, as well as two different human characters. You unfortunately aren't able to play as the Alien, as they're the main villain of the game, so you are limited to the Predator and the Human, but it really isn't much of a deal whatsoever. This game was actually supposed to be a movie tie-in for a movie that was based off one of the Alien vs. Predator comic books. That movie was completely rewritten and released in 2004, so this is a standalone game, even though it was supposed to be a movie tie-in. The story has it that Capcom was so far in development of the game, they just decided to release it, even though there was no movie to market it with. As far as how you can play this game, you can play it on the CPS2 hardware or emulate it. It was actually supposed to be released for the Sega 32X as a home port. Obviously, we know that never happened because the 32X was a complete commercial failure. So as far as playing this game is concerned, you want to either emulate it or buy the board. Gameplay-wise, you have this awesome mix of gun gameplay, ranged attacks, as well as weapon-based or physical combat-based attacks. So you have a lot of range and kind of versatility and how you can actually attack the enemies and play the game. Graphically, all the characters, your character as well as all the enemies, have a good amount of animation frames. It's not the best I've ever seen, but as far as how the characters move, how the enemies move, and all the colors, you really do feel like you're transported to an alien world, pun very much intended, when you're playing this. So in that respect alone, it looks amazing, and I absolutely love it. I would say that this is my favorite beat-em-up on the platform. It may very well be my favorite CPS2 game, but that is up for debate. But as far as this game's history is concerned, it is considered one of the all-time classics, not just on the CPS2 platform, but one of the all-time classic arcade games in general. So in that respect alone, I 110% recommend however you source and play this game, absolutely play it start to finish, enjoy it, take a look at it, it's super fun. If you do want to buy the game original format for the CPS2, you're looking at around $300 to $400 for a cartridge, depending on what condition it's in, and depending on what day you buy it. I do recommend emulating it unless you really need it for your collection. But now that we've died, you get a really good look at that Queen Alien animation, and we're going to come back and show you a little bit of the Predator gameplay. They have a lot more physical combat to them. You have your staff here, and that allows you more to have that close quarters combat of your traditional beat 'em up. You do still have your shoulder cannon. That does have ammunition to it. It's got a cooldown period, so you can't just completely fire it off and kind of cheese the game, but it definitely is an option for you. As far as the different characters are concerned, I would say that generally I like playing as the human characters a little bit better, just because I like that mix of the gun combat versus the physical combat. I think the Predator relies a little bit too heavily on the close quarters combat, and the cooldown period on your armed weapons is quite strict. That's just because they're so powerful, but I do kind of like mixing it up with the human characters. It just is a little bit more fun as far as I'm concerned. What I'm going to let you do is watch a little bit more of the Alien vs. Predator gameplay, and I'll come back before it ends and introduce the second game in the beat 'em up series that we're taking a look at.
Round 6.
So here we are at one of the Alien vs. Predator special stages. We're using Major Schaefer, the second human character, and I had never beat this stage. Much like the beat the car up stage in Street Fighter 2, you have to do so much damage to this so it'll destroy itself, and I never do it. I don't know exactly what I'm missing here. Maybe I'm missing some combos, maybe I'm just not fast enough, but I'm going to fail this like I fail pretty much everything else special stage wise in this game when you have to put so much damage into it. It's a lot of fun. I wish I knew what happened if you actually beat it, but I just have never done it. You take some damage when that hits the ceiling, and then you go on to the next stage. What we're going to do now that we've died, is we're going to be taking a look at our second game in the beat 'em up series. After this queen disappears, we're going to be going straight into Armored Warriors. Now I will say that that game is not as good as Alien vs. Predator, but it's still a super competent, super fun beat 'em up on the system, and it's one that doesn't get talked about as much. Generally, because it did come out in the same time period as well, it's a really interesting comparison to Alien vs. Predator, because just like Alien vs. Predator, you have aliens attacking Earth. In this situation, they're much more mechanically based robots than they are the traditional aliens from the Alien franchise. We're going to start right here in Mission 1, Deserted Town, and you'll get a look at Armored Warrior gameplay. So graphically, this also doesn't really hold up as well as Alien vs. Predator for me. It still looks really good. The sprites are nice and large. The backgrounds are definitely detailed, but as far as just the colors and the overall vibe to the game are concerned, it's kind of like a B-list game compared to Alien vs. Predator. But considering it's not talked about near as much, I definitely wanted to showcase it for you guys. So you're in this gigantic mech here, and you're battling different sized robots, and you do get some story elements. The interesting thing about the CPS2 hardware is that almost all games that show you those dialog boxes, if you hold down any button, they're going to run at about 10x speed, and all the animations in the background run at that speed as well, so it's almost like a built-in overclock mode to get you through that text and back into the gameplay. As far as the gameplay of Armored Warrior is concerned, it's a lot more grapple-based. You do have those physical attacks where you can pick enemies up and beat them. So compared to Alien vs. Predator with a lot of those long-ranged attack options you have, Armored Warrior is much more close combat-based. And then you get these large kind of mech battles that are going to function as your boss battles. The game was also developed by Capcom, obviously a different team. So it is a Capcom game, but it does feel different than Alien vs. Predator. The best thing I can say in comparison-wise is that this is Robot Alien vs. Predator, and it's not quite as good. If you're going to pick this game up, I definitely recommend emulating it. It's not going to be one of the more expensive CPS2 boards that you can buy, but for my money, I don't think it's good enough to add to my collection, except I am playing it, so clearly it is in there, but that's just me. Your mileage will vary if you want to pick up the original copy or if you want to emulate it. Totally up to you. It is definitely worth checking out, though. So what I'm going to let you do is I'm going to let you watch a little bit more of the gameplay, and then we'll come in and close the video out. Now that we're on a second stage here, we are using a different character just to show you some diversity. But like I said, we'll be back in about a minute and a half to talk a little bit more about Armored Warrior and to talk about what we're going to be doing in next week's episode. So there you have it, two great examples of beat-em-ups on the CPS2 platform. Won't be the last beat-em-ups we look at because the CPS2 had so many great examples of the genre on the system, but they're two of some of my favorites. Obviously you can tell that I like Alien vs. Predator a bit more, and that may just be down to the fact that I played that a lot growing up, or I only encountered Armored Warrior as an adult when I was kind of collecting for the CPS2. My local arcade just didn't have it, so I wasn't able to play it in those golden years of I loved everything because it was a game and I got to play it. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look next week at some new genres on the CPS2. We still have a lot of episodes coming up for you guys, a lot of good content, and a lot of different games that were super popular on the CPS2. If you could do us a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps us out. We spend a lot of time on each one of these episodes, and we really appreciate your support. If you hit the bell and get that notification going as well, that's also helpful. Otherwise, you can follow us on Instagram at Chicago Game Collector. Short of that, we'll see you next Tuesday for a new episode in the CPS2 series. Otherwise, enjoy this little crab-based water bot right here that you can fight, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.